It can't be good for the game when the media devote so many words and so much ink to bad decisions, which ultimately undermines the integrity of some results. The DRS is not perfect, but it does err in favour of the umpires. The umpires' decisions, and according to the ICC, fewer mistakes are made with its use. And furthermore, apparently, there is less conflict on the ground when it is being used. India has two reasons for opposing the DRS. One, because its superstars had such an embarrassing experience with it in the early days. Two, the BCCI argues that the DRS is too inexact. Ironically, the spirit of cricket is batting on both sides in this one. The cavalier approach says DRS is not in the spirit of cricket, but on the other hand, the Indian superstars and board should act in the spirit of cricket and accept the majority viewpoint. Gambling. These days you can't talk about cricket without dwelling on the ongoing damage match fixing and game manipulation has caused the sport. I share the world's view that it's repugnant and that cricket administrators should adopt a zero-tolerance policy. Currently, all ICC member players' contracts contain clauses prohibiting match fixing, and all contracted players are required to sign off on the education program provided by the ICC prior to taking part in any international match. The boards have also spelt out exactly what a player's obligation is if any approach is made by anyone in relation to corruption. For example, there is an ICC anti-corruption and security representative at every international match. In fact, in some countries, they're at all first-class games as well. Players are encouraged to go either directly to their management or alternatively go directly to the ICC anti-corruption and security representative. Sadly, this hasn't been sufficient to eliminate corruption. Short of all players agreeing to take a lie detector test, I don't know how corruption can be eliminated completely. I think all players should agree to take lie detector tests, and all should agree that if they fail the tests, they would give the officials access to their bank accounts and records and phone records. My expectation is that only a handful of players might fail the test, and therefore it would not be an onerous commitment by 99.9% of the players. Some players embrace the bookies or their representatives for financial gain, or because of threats to their family, and one should never underestimate that. It's not necessarily all about money. Or because a young, naive player feels beholden to a captain he idolises. Ironically, I think lie detector tests would be in the interests of the vulnerable players because it would lessen the chance of approaches from bookies and captains. Knowing that they would be caught through the lie detector test would lessen the chance of the player trying to either make a quick dollar or capitulating to the bookmaker threats. Obviously, agreeing to take lie detector tests would be a huge invasion in privacy, but no more so than accepting a stranger knocking on your door at 5 a.m. asking for you to provide a urine sample. It's a huge sacrifice, but I think it would be in the spirit of cricket for players to agree to it. Governance. I should like to express my dismay, not only at the proliferation of external reports telling us what changes need to be made, but also governments throughout the cricket world telling us how to run the game. I don't know whether current administrators lack the knowledge and courage to make decisions for the sport. Perhaps it's a bit of both. Or more likely, they are being a little sneaky and pushing responsibility for unpopular decisions to an external source. In recent times, Cricket Australia, the ECB and the ICC all commissioned external reports. The ICC investigation was undertaken by Lord Wolfe, and his key recommendations were never going to be accepted, no chance in the world. Basically, Lord Wolfe was recommending the equivalent of the United States, Russia, China, the United Kingdom and France giving up their vetoes in the Security Council, or the House of Lords voting itself out of existence. I mean, it was fairy tale stuff, really. Believe it or not, the reason for outside independent expert reports is that anything put forward by, say, the ICC executive is perceived to be agenda-driven by someone. What a sorry state of affairs. What a cop-out. I want cricket people running cricket in the best interests of cricket, not outsiders reading from a textbook. Over the years, cricket has been severely damaged by government interference in South Africa and Pakistan and Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe and India. England has been subjected to government interference, and recently the Australian government urged Cricket Australia to improve its governance. Obviously, all cricketing boards need to comply with the laws of the land in respect of corruption, etc., and all need to improve their governance. But the governance should be done at their own initiative and members' behest, and not with governments holding a gun at their heads. Unequal resources. There is obviously a substantial difference in available resources between the haves, India, England, Australia, and South Africa, and the have-nots, the West Indies, Pakistan, New Zealand, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Zimbabwe. This creates many problems. The have-nots youngsters are less likely to be attracted to cricket. It's far more difficult for those countries to develop the players, and perhaps more importantly, players from the have-nots countries are more likely to be attracted to the big money in 2020 competitions than in playing tests for their own countries. Once again, this problem could be addressed if all countries invoked the spirit of cricket and made some sacrifices. The following comments provide a solution provide a solution to my earlier observation about the international calendar and the IPL. And paradoxically, the IPL might just prove to be a solution. 1. India should agree to reduce the length of the IPL in its current form as a trade-off for the other countries not scheduling internationals in opposition to it. That is, unless it adopts my Asian League proposal, which I shall discuss in a minute. 2. Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, New Zealand and the West Indies agreed not to schedule any internationals in opposition to the IPL. These countries will never be able to generate enough income to make internationals in the long term more attractive to their players than the IPL money. 3. India should agree to expand the IPL to, say, an Asian League and include extra teams from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Pakistan. The cricket boards of these countries should be given a financial interest in the competition, which would enable them to underwrite most of their cricket. Those funds would compensate the boards for not running domestic 2020 competitions of their own, as they are planning to do now. This expanded league would enable players from the have-not countries to earn good money and still be available to play in internationals. 4, England should set up its equivalent of the IPL and include teams from the West Indies and one team from, say, Ireland, which would have a financial interest in the competition. Similar arrangements should be made in South Africa for Zimbabwe and Kenya, and Australia's Big Bash should include New Zealand. 5, World Cricket should do everything possible to not only help the West Indies become a dominant test force again, but to ensure Pakistan cricket survives the extraordinary situation in which it now finds itself. As I've expressed a number of times throughout this speech, I believe most of the existing problems can be solved by India if it embraces the spirit of cricket and leads for world cricket, not just for India. However, there is a potential problem which would negate my optimism. Lord Wolfe recommended that the president of the ICC become a ceremonial role and that a new position of an independent chairman be created. He recommended that the chairman serve for 3 years and that the position be remunerated. This person would be the most powerful person in world cricket. Although India has rejected the Wolfe report, I am concerned that it will cherry-pick and support this recommendation, or a watered-down version in a motion to change the existing constitution of the ICC. The worry is that India has enough clout to control the position forever. I should like to conclude by saying that cricket, a 19th century game, has survived and thrived into the 21st century because the spirit of cricket had been just as important to cricket-playing countries and democracies as Shakespeare has been to the world. Cricket, as we know and love it, has plenty of problems. Most of those problems can be solved. if the ICC members put the game's interests before their own interests. If India accepts the survival of Test cricket is non-negotiable. If India accepts its responsibility as leader of the cricket world, if it embraces Nelson Mandela's philosophy of not seeking retribution, it embraces the spirit of cricket and governs in the best interests of world cricket, not just for India and its business partners. All those things need to be addressed so that cricket's own great journey can continue. The one that began on the Wealds of Kent and the Downs of Hampshire and, of course, found its way north so that that canny Yorkshireman, Captain James Cook, could set it off towards Australia and New Zealand. And it has found its way to the East and the West Indies and my native South Africa. And they're beginning to play it in all sorts of exotic locations. What we have is a game with its roots deep in the 19th century, but like a magnificent English oak, continues to spread its luxuriant branches into the 21st century. If we want our children's children's children to be able to climb on that tree, share in what we are lucky enough to share in this room today, we must do everything in our power to ensure that that tree can live. To do that, no matter where we come from in the world, no matter what our religion or our hue, we must be guided by the paramount and enlightening thing that Colin Cowdrey knew and cherished so well, the spirit of cricket. Thank you.